What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the Other Side of the Firewall podcast, where we talk about the latest and greatest in cybersecurity news, as well as we highlight those movers and shakers and glass ceiling breakers, those people of color who've made it to the other side of the proverbial firewall. My name is Ryan Williams, and as always, I'm joined by Shannon Tynes.
What's up? What's up?
What's going on? And full roster this week, we have Chris Apicott.
What's going on, everybody?
What's going on, Chris? And we also have Daniel Acevedo.
Let's get it going, guys. Thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. So please continue to tune in throughout the week. So Monday, Tuesday are topics, Wednesday discussion, Thursdays Ask a CISSP, and then Fridays everything else, movies, books, games, and all that good stuff. But without further ado, I give it to Shannon.
All right, everybody. So this article's from Wired.com. Man, I tell you, sometimes it's I don't know. We'll talk about it. The title of this one from Del Cameron is "Surprise!" with an exclamation. The latest comprehensive, and they have it in quotes, U.S. privacy bill is doomed, right? And the reason they have it in quotes for comprehensive is because there were civil rights protections that were gutted, right, from this, and it was to try to woo one side of the aisle to be like, hey, we this is the way we can do this. We can make this work if we get rid of these different things. And if you take away civil rights protections, I mean, I can see why it's not as comprehensive as it needs to be, right? But yeah, so this was called the American Privacy Rights Act. There was going to be a congressional hearing, right, to put it to a vote, but they appeared to have canceled that, right? And what's kind of crazy about this, right? What's wild about this to me is that this is something that we're just now even having a discussion about, and the EU has implemented this 6 years ago, right? Like it came up for discussion, I want to say it was 2016, and in 2018 they enacted it, right? Their GDPR, which kind of talks about the privacy of citizens over there and how their data is used, right? Like, why are we so far behind on this? Like the map is already out there on what to do, right? And it's 6 years, at least 6 years of learning what may not have gone right in the EU, because the EU has made some changes to it over that time frame, right? There's been some things I can't remember the specific articles. There was at least two that we talked about where the EU was like, okay, let's readdress this, you know what I mean, and then kind of wrap it up into GDPR. But I don't know why this is something that's so hard to come by, right? Like, especially after the first article we did this week when we were talking about the TikTok and user privacy and things like that. If you're going to stress that it's so important, why is this not a priority? Why are we not already at that point? Like I said, there's already something out there that we can follow for this. So just not having it already, we're just so far behind the curve, right? So and here's the thing, I don't know for sure. Like the EU, the GDPR is the one that I know of that seems to be working fairly well for them. There may be other countries or other regions that have something out there, and I'm just not aware of it. But
I was going to say Canada's PIPEDA, right? I believe
Canada has one. Okay,
yeah, I think Canada has one as well.
And they're in North America. See, they're even closer. That's North America still, right? Like, so the tracks have been laid for this to happen. You know what I'm saying? So I don't understand why it's so hard. But Daniel, what's your thoughts on this, man?
I know this one's rough for me. Like, I got tilted a little bit because of the article we had earlier this week, right? Like, if the people's privacy is such an important thing that we're worried about, whether it's, in the US or foreign nationals, either, implementing things to change how the American populace thinks, acts, or within the US itself. And we want to prevent things from either, changing how that happens or letting people protect their own information, and giving the people the right to do that. Then why hasn't this been passed already? It's really, I'm at a loss for words for it, right? Because the main reason why it wasn't passed was because I think, if I read it correctly, the Republican Party was hard against it. So the Democrats, even though they were going into litigation to figure out how they were going to back it, decided to just like drop it as a lost case, because even if it passed, it was going to get stopped before it was going to get even up to litigation. So I don't know. If you read the article, it's a hard read because, not as it's difficult to read through it, but the things that come out of the article is hard to read as a user and wanting to protect your privacy and your information. Even from just paraphrasing here, the lead section aimed to prevent businesses from tracking in people's data in a manner that discriminates and otherwise makes unavailable equal enjoyment of goods or services based on race, color, religion, nation of origin, sex, or disability. And it goes on to say that the reason this stage are obvious removed because the GOP lawmakers are against that type of language existing in the bill. So that means they don't want people's information to be protected if it falls under those bases, because they want the businesses to have the ability to see that information and us as users to not prevent businesses from seeing it. So just reading that is kind of like, it's like Big Brother plus big business, kind of just, and we were like powerless, right? I feel like people should be more upset about this, and I think it's going to get swept under the rug. Only people like in our community will really like hone on a topic like this and try to like get it out as much as possible. But what do you think, Chris? Those are my thoughts.
I think you're really spot on that. Like, kind of my first thoughts are just with the really initial article, and then just really the pro, like for example, the pro business approach of Republicans, and so to me that mindset comes from the fact that I think there is still the pervasive mindset of data is gold, right? Kind of like data is the new oil. Remember that big data, that buzzword that they were talking about years ago, like data is the new oil, big data, blah blah blah, right? So I think they're almost treating our data, our personal information, right, as almost like a commodity. Right? We're commoditized, right? We're just numbers, and to me that is that's upsetting from just hey, we're just people, right? We're just another number or another data point on an Excel spreadsheet somewhere for some analyst to say, hey, we need to market this person, right? And really the fact that there's no effort on either side to come together to some type of conclusion, it's very disheartening. Right? Like Dan was saying, it's a very hard. But I do want to highlight just kind of a few things about how the GDPR is different. There's two things that I did want to talk about. One of the principles of GDPR is purpose limitation, and another one is data minimization. Purpose limitation essentially talks about personal data collected must be specified and explicit for legitimate purposes. So companies in the GDPR has to be very transparent as to how that data is collected and how it's being utilized. And then data minimization is just only collecting adequate, relevant, and limited to what is necessary for the purpose for which it is. So limited and adequate, right? Versus the approach that we take here is the kind of the cowboy approach where it's like, I want it all. Give me all that data, baby. I want, hey, browsing history. I want the number of clicks they have on specific product, right? I want to know, from the capitalist perspective, I'm not trying to be Mr. Kanye or whatever, but they want to know what you want to buy. Right? How can we sell to this person? Right? And from a business standpoint, that's probably the right approach, right? Hey, this is just data. But kind of piggybacking off Daniel's, like people just don't care enough about this. I think people would care if they were just educated about it, right?
Mm-hmm. I agree.
I think that a lot of people have this mindset of, hey, it doesn't affect me, right? I don't have anything to hide. But I think that's the wrong approach because you're giving away, your right to your privacy, the way that you can control how your information is utilized, right? So, I mean, from like, you can Google your name if you got a unique name, like you can find stuff on people, right? But I want to know, like, I don't want myself out there. I have the right as a human to not want my information passed along just like anybody else, right? So, yeah, those are kind of my quick thoughts. Ryan, what do you think?
Ryan, before we cut to you, man. So to address what you were talking about, Chris, and Daniel, you agreed with him. So Chris, you said if people knew about it, you think they would care, right? You think they'd care more or whatever. I disagree, and here's why I disagree. I'll bring this up to you, right? I do. So when it comes to Facebook, right, and people getting these advertisements on Facebook and things like that, like we have seen, or there is available to the masses these different documentaries and things like that talk about social media and how it affects you and how it's collecting information on you and how they're using it. It is available to people. Facebook is not losing money. Like Facebook is not losing money. Like people are still on Facebook. They still have billions of people. It's like I don't think people care. Like they may feign disgust and they may feign like, oh, this is I'm so I'm so over this, you know what I mean? And I'm not going to use Facebook anymore. I've not seen their numbers go down that much to where it's like Facebook Meta is suffering, right? So I don't think people care. I think people may feign, like it may be a discussion starter at the water cooler. We still have water coolers. I don't know. I don't.
No.
That's still a thing. Right? Water cooler talk, like that's still a thing. But like, I don't think people will truly care because their actions don't support that they do, right? They're not off of Facebook, they're not off of Instagram, they're not off of TikTok. And that information is just their information is being shared. And here's the thing, it's not just social media, right? So like if you ever sign up for one of these like rewards programs or whatever at like Target, Walmart or whatever, right? If you ever get your receipts, like if you look on the back of those receipts, you know, they have coupons and whatnot on there. You'll look at that and be like, man, I have bought that before. I may not have bought it in this transaction, right? I remember when my youngest daughter was born and we were buying diapers and whatnot. And I turned over the receipt. Now, even though I hadn't bought diapers that time, I got a coupon for diapers, the brand that I had bought before. You know what I'm saying? Like it's stuff like that. Like they're like numerous companies are taking that information, and we are a commodity, Chris. Like we 100%, they are monetizing us and what we're doing. Like you were commoditized. There you go. You are commoditized because you are going to be a consumer based off based off the information they know of. You're going to spend your money, right? You more than all of us, Chris, but still, you're going to spend your money.
I think.
But I'm sorry, Ryan.
Before fast, my bad, Ryan. We're going to interject one more time real quick. I think there might be a discrepancy between not caring, and I think we underestimate the computer illiteracy still in the nation, and the age groups, right? Still the oldest age group is still pretty heavily prevalent, and just how if it's not very black and white on how this affects you or how your information is being used, you know, even just from search engines and that kind of stuff, like what's actually out there and what's the gain by big businesses, and then how big government's actually backing that, it seems, by not passing this bill. This bill would have allowed like the GDPR and these other frameworks that exist out there to kind of like in black and white give the user the ability to have these organizations stop tracking or stop them from gathering these type of informations in an easier fashion, that like I would be able to just, you know, be able to click a button and say, hey, don't gather my information, or I want my information back, or limit the types of information that's being gathered, and the way that people could opt into those things being a lot easier. Those mechanisms kind of exist nowadays. It's very difficult to do though, unless you go through the weeds to figure out how to do it. And it's not going to be a one for all for everything out in the internet. My bad, Ryan, to keep on cutting you off, but I just wanted to add that in there.
No, I think these are all great points. So definitely continue to do that, right? So like, share, subscribe, hit a bell. There's a bell involved. We're trying to get 500 subs. Please subscribe. Greatly appreciate that. So for my 2 cents, thank God GDPR is still out there, right? So at the end of the day, regardless of what the U.S. passed, whether it be this bastardized bill or not, it still would have been the highest restrictions would have been GDPR regardless. And then all companies would still follow that anyway, because data flows worldwide. So in order to protect yourself and not be sued by somebody in the EU, you would have to follow GDPR anyway. So if the U.S. wasn't coming with something stronger than the GDPR still would have been the rule of law regardless. So luckily it's still there. Hopefully, because it did not go through, that they're going to kind of rethink it and hopefully do something with it. But I doubt it. The lobbyists got to it. Like you said, data is worth its weight in gold, and it was not going to be a good bill anyway. So why even pass it? My concern is that without it having teeth, right? These things will go the way of credit card companies. So like Shannon said, when he buys something, he gets coupons for something that's similar to what he bought or the same exact thing he bought, right? Because that data is already tied in there. And the way that credit card companies get away with it is that they give you points or they give you whatever. Like they basically pay out to a certain extent. They pay you pennies on the dollar what they're selling your data for. And social media companies do not do that. So on average, I think they said social media companies make about $12 per person. And you have to think billions of people are online using their platforms. So they're making money hand over fist. And none of that comes back to us. If a product is free, typically you are the product, right? You're like, okay, I'm using Facebook, it's free. Like, this is amazing. It's because they're selling your data. So I think when they came to put this together, big companies came out and lobbied hard as they possibly could. Like, please don't do that, because you will cut into our bottom line by doing so. But my concern is that if we don't pass something here in the U.S., we're going to be open to the next thing. So I passed the article to the group probably yesterday, I want to say, about brain data, right? So neural data is starting to become the thing, because what's more intimate than your search history? Your brain activity, right? Is getting more and more Orwellian as the years go by. So if we don't have protections, which I'm sure the EU will pass something to do with neural data, brain data, whatever they call it, in the future, it'll be some kind of provision for it. It's right around the corner. It's not science fiction anymore. Like, there's literally companies that are out there who are providing services to either help people who are ailing or have addictions, things of that nature, or to study their brain patterns to be able to predict what they're thinking, to help the people who are challenged, so that way they can move mouse and keyboard, things of that nature. It's not just Neuralink that's doing it. It's in the medical field right now, being used to help people with PTSD, with pain. Like, the list goes on and on and on and on. There are no provisions to protect that data yet. They're working on it. It's a thing. But if we don't even pass a civil rights bill in general, then where does this fall under? So my concern is that it needs an umbrella to put this new bill, once that does come to fruition, underneath it, because brain data will be highly sensitive. Because right now you think your PI gets out there, right? Your social, your home address. Yeah. Right? Like, what happens when you're I don't know what they're called, like alpha and beta waves? I don't know. I'm not a neuroscientist.
Good.
Right? Like, yeah, even if I made it up, that sounds good. What happens when these patterns get out there, that the things that make you can't be more intimate than your brain chemistry? And if we don't have a bigger umbrella to protect us, then when this sensitive data starts to get out there, it won't be just like the 23andMe breach. It'll be significantly worse. And that does make me concerned. And it's not to be too conspiracy theorist, but yeah, that article I sent you guys, that's all based on local news. Like, this is happening here in the States, and there are already concerns about it. So yeah, I don't know. Like, it really does boggle my mind. Hopefully they did not go through with it, because they sat there and they're like, this whatever bastardized bill that we're trying to pass just won't pass muster. So we have to go back and figure this out. But again, our saving grace will be the UK. Or not the UK, the EU. Our saving grace will be the EU, because they will pass something. But like, we're the land of the free, the home of the brave. We should be leading the charge in some regard to some of these regulations and bills, and we're not doing it at all. We truly are showing our cards, and they're really sponsored by big companies, right? It's like our politicians should wear NASCAR jackets with badges of the companies that are sponsored.
All obvious.
I like that idea. Yeah. It's like Goldman Sachs.
Basically.
Everyone they accepted campaign money from, right? Like advertising.
Yeah.
They should have tiers like, hey, this guy's a gold sponsor. This guy's a silver sponsor.
Yeah, it really is ridiculous. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, right around the corner. So the next 5 years, brain data will be a thing. So we need to come up with something to protect ourselves. But no, I think it's a great conversation.
Not to add more to it, if you couple that with all the voice and video data and the concerns from the deepfake and the AI stuff with the brain activity. Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Like, that's all still PII. All the data is going to be recorded and saved in some kind of server or some kind of database. It's all ones and zeros at some point. A bill like this could, like you're saying, encompass everything. But if they can't even, figure this stuff out to pass this first one, that other stuff is more critical, right? So it is kind of scary. It really is. And that's close. Yeah, like a couple years from now. It's not that far away.
Yeah, just imagine something that's able to reenact you, not only your voice and your image, but also your thought patterns. It's creepy stuff. I kind of like it, subject to whatever that is.
We're one step closer to Ghost in the Shell. We got our little
for real.
Codes in the book.
Let's plug in.
Hook
the
up,
Matrix.
plug in.
Yeah, the future is pretty scary. But continue to tune in for more of this I don't even know what to call it. More of this Orwellian 1984 conversation that we're having, because it's actually real. So people should definitely pay attention to it. But also, hopefully that this does evolve and it does come back to the docket, and we can talk about the U.S. version of this bill. Hopefully that'll be a conversation in the very near future. Hit up all the websites. Oh, go ahead, Shannon.
So I just want to say, with all the talking we've done this week, right? We need to make sure bring it out to people's attention. Like if one of us disappears and we don't hear from them, we just got to do it, man. Because I don't know,
it's either the banks or the privacy.
We were poking the bear this
poking
week.
Too many bears. Poking too many bears. That goes into a podcast I'm listening to. So we'll talk about that on Friday's episode. It's actually pretty good. So I'll share that with you guys. And it falls really like this. It wasn't intentional, but it falls right into that wheelhouse as well. But hit up all of the websites that go by our name. Hit me up personally. I'm at RY Security Guy. That's RY Security Guy. You can find me on all the social media platforms, basically. And then you can find Chris on LinkedIn by his name, spelled A Bacon. And you can find Daniel also by his name on LinkedIn as well. And then Shannon, you'll find him by his brain data in the future. Then never get your brain data.
I don't hook any type of link up to me.
There it
I'm
is.
gonna be the one. I'm gonna be the one coming out of the sewers, like in what was that, Demolition Man, coming out of the sewers, robbing Taco Bell, the fanciest restaurant at the time. It's gonna be me.
Yeah,
Shannon says, die.